Hi viewers, and welcome to the channel, and today we're going to be looking at custom widgets in the Qt framework. Now this is a programming tutorial, a Python programming tutorial for FreeCAD, but we're not going to be touching on anything in FreeCAD. This is to do with creating macros that use Windows and these custom widgets within. Now when we open a window up, if you followed me on my channel before, you notice I do quite a lot with the window, and I use that to control like animations and my scripts within. But we got to think of that rather than a window as a widget, because these custom items inside this list box are custom widgets, and if you look at them, they're basically the same code without the self.show as a window. So stay tuned and I'll be with you in a moment. If you like this video, please hit a like and also subscribe to the channel. I also have a Ko-Fi site where you can actually donate to my contributions to the community, and that's at ko-fi.com/mang0. So for this tutorial, we don't actually need to create a new scene in FreeCAD or a new document. We're going to be staying in the macro itself. So I'm going to start off in the macros, and I'm going to create a new macro. And I'm just going to call this widget example. And what I'm going to do, if you've seen my previous videos before on Python programming, you know I tend to stay with class-based programming. So I'll create a class, create a window, and we create all our operations from there, because it gives us something to hang stuff off of. We don't need to go into the Python console and paste code in there and start it up. What I'm going to do is show you the basic window, and then how that window can be converted to a widget that can be placed in other lists or Qt box areas, etc. We start from importing our PySide, and I'm going to be a bit more to standards with this. Normally what I do is import everything from PySide, so I use a star to import everything from Qt GUI. But that is a bit bad practice, because we end up importing everything and we don't obviously use everything in there, so we only need a few things in there. So from PySide I'm going to use .Qt GUI, so I'm targeting the Qt GUI namespace here. And at the moment I'm just going to pull in the Q widget. So import Q widget, and that just imports that Q widget from that PySide Qt GUI library. And it's a good idea to also spell it properly. There we go. And I'm going to create a class, and this is going to be the class my window. But I'm going to show you how this can be used as a custom widget as well. So we extend the Q widget, and then from there, let's give us a bit of space. I'm using tabs for this. You can use spaces to space over as long as you keep them consistent. I'm going to define the constructor, so underscore init, and this will be run every single time, underscore open close bracket, and in that bracket we put self. So this is run every single time this is initialized, and I'm going to just do super on here to run the constructor of the Q widget as well. So this goes back to the Q widget and runs the constructor. So we pass in my window, the class. You've probably already seen this before on my other tutorials, but this is the basics of a window, and I'm going to show you how this can be reused within the window as well. So using basically almost exactly the same code. So that runs the super. I'm going to just do a self.show on there. Just get started, and I need to actually instantiate it. My win equals my window. So I'm just basically starting up the class here. So we need our panels, our report view, so we can see what's going on. we run that, the window opens up. I'm going to put some basic labels and buttons in there so we can see that actually in the window, and I'll show you how to reuse that. So we'll have a label, that's a Q label that we need to instantiate, and obviously we need to instantiate the text of the label, so I'm just going to put label text in there. This demonstration, put text, there we go. We also got to import that, so I'm going to put a comma in the import and put Q label in there. So now we're importing the Q label from the Q GUI and use that. So now when we run this, we haven't got anything yet, so we need to have a layout. So we also need to create a layout. I'm going to use a Q vertical box layout on this one. So QV box layout, and we'll add to that so that everything's going in a vertical box alignment, just basically like a list. We need to instantiate that layout, so layout equals QV box layout, like so, and to that layout we need to add the widget. So we add in label widget to the layout, so add widget. This allows it to display on screen. We're almost there, and we need to self.set layout and pass in the layout, so that label should show. So there's the label text there, that's quite small. You basically got a window there with that in. Let's add something else to this as well. Let's make this, instead of vertical box layout, make a horizontal box layout, and come down here and make that a horizontal box layout. I'm going to put a button by the side of this as well. So I'm going to create a button in here, and also we need to pull in the Q push button, and we'll come in here and I'm going to put a button equals Q push button, and I'm just going to add the text to this button, something like push me. Woo, push me. There we go. Obviously we need to add that to the layout, so that should add it to the end of that layout. Add widget button, and what we should do is get a label on the button if everything's okay. So button push me, Q push button, add widget label, add widget button, and add it to the layout. Okay, so you got those two there. So this is window. Well, it's not really a window. I keep calling it a window. It's actually a widget, and that's important to know because we can actually create a window with multiples of these inside it if we create this as a custom widget. We use the same code, but instead of showing it, we actually add it to the window. So let me demonstrate. So I'm going to call this, I'm going to take a copy of this. So I'm taking a whole copy of this window code, and I'm going to create that. I've pasted that in there, and I'm going to call this custom, something like custom Q widget or custom widget. Custom widget, and there's nothing different what we've done here with this. We've just created a copy of the class, and we can instantiate it by calling this my window calling custom widget. But I don't want this self.show in here, so I'm going to take that out, and what I'm aiming to do is pull this into this window as a separate custom widget. So you could create multiples of these and put them into some kind of layout in this window, or even another widget itself, like something like a list box or something like that. So you can make custom lists. And this is all to do with layout and creating these custom widgets, because we can extend classes, we can extend, say, a drop down list. We could actually extend it to have labels and buttons in there, so we get more variety of what we can actually do with the Qt framework. And this is the same in all widget-based programming. So what we've got here, we've got super, I don't want that, let's call that my winner. So we're calling the super again to pull in everything, all the properties, all the methods from the widget, this Q widget, because we're extending Q widget. And I'm going to place something like custom, so we know it's from the custom. There we go. Q horizontal layout, that's fine. That's all good. So in here, I'm going to basically get rid of most of this, and I think I'm going to use no, I won't get rid of most of this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to, let's get rid of this. May keep the layout, we can redo that. So we've got a basic window open here, and I'm going to set saying custom widget there equals custom widget. So I've created a custom widget there, which is one of these, and I should have kept the layout in here. Let's bring this horizontal box layout, so let's be a bit lazy and pull these in. Let's not be lazy, let's come down here. So layout, so this is the layout of the window equals, now I'm going to use a vertical layout, so QV box layout. So we're using a vertical box layout, and we're going to put a number of these widgets into this box layout. And because we called super on here, we've got the self dot add layout, sorry, set layout, and place the layout in there. I forgot to add something to the layout actually, so I've got layout, and we'll add that custom widget in there. Dot add widget, and we're calling this custom widget. So what we're doing is actually adding the custom widget to this layout. So what should happen is this should create an instance of this layout, calling the custom widget. Then we create a layout of QV box layout, so a vertical box layout. We add the custom widget to that layout, and then we set the layout of the window or the widget to that layout, and we show. Let's give that a go. Got a few errors coming down here. We haven't imported QV layout, so let's import that. QV box layout. That should be fine. And there we go. So that's added that to that window. So that's a custom widget that's been added to that window. And if we create another one of these, so come in here and just copy this down and create another widget, and this layout add widget, copy that and add that in there, we should get two. So there, I've got two now. And also you can hook up these buttons inside here, or we could if we want these buttons to do different things, we could have a method in here where we pass in methods to it to hook up to those. So that's how you would create a custom widget to appear on there. Let's have it in a list instead. So instead of adding them to the Q box layout, let's create a list for these, and I'll show you how that appears in the list. So I'm going to keep those two, and I'm going to come up here, and we need the Q list widget. And come back down to my window, and I'm going to create the list. So list equals Q list widget. And what you normally do with a list, if I add this to my layout, so self.setLayout layout, let's add it as the last thing. So layout add widget list, so that will appear in there. Do I need to add anything to that? Yeah, I need to add something to the list. So what you normally do with a list is list dot as add item, I believe. It's a capital I item. Yeah, add item. What you normally do is add some text in there, so item 1, like so. So that will add it to the list, and then we'll do the same for another list item, like so. And this is item 2. So when we run this, you get this list with item 1 and item 2 in there, which you can select. But what we want to do is create a custom list with these in there. And obviously we could even put images on here as well, and the list items to denote what those list items are, the images in there. So let's get these as items in that list. Now to do that, the list item actually takes strings, but it also takes something called a QList widget item. So we need to import that, and that allows us to add custom items to our list. It's getting a bit long. That's QList widget item, so we're importing that in, so that sits in that namespace. And let's have a look. So where can we put it? So I'm going to create a new one. So create a list. We've added those 2 items to it. I'm going to leave those 2 items in there so we can show you that you can have multiple items of different types in there, different structures. So now we've got these 2 items in our list. What I want to do is pull this into this list as well. So we've got a custom list item sitting here. Now for that, we're going to use something called a QList widget item, and basically these are list items in there, QList widget items in there. We're just going to make a custom one to place in there. So I'm going to come in here, I'm going to leave this list add item in there, and I'm going to remove this custom widget from our layout. Or I could even make a copy of that so it actually duplicates up again. I'm just going to remove that actually, so let's get rid of that and give us a space, and this is the custom widget we're going to be using, and that's going to go into our list. So if you see here, list add item here. Now it's not as simple as doing list add item, we've got to do some additional code around that because this is a specific item. List.add item allows for strings, but it also allows for something called a QList widget item, and those are items of a QList widget. So what we're going to do is create one of those and assign our custom widget to that. So the first thing we need to do is import the QList widget item into our imports. So we've got the QList widget here, so what we need now is the QList widget item. Let's pull that in, and we're going to create a new one of those. So I'm going to come back down, got our list here, QList widget, and I'm going to call this list item. Create a new one of those, so QList widget item. We've got our custom widget here, so I'm going to call this list widget. Let's take that and paste it in here. Doesn't matter where it sits, but we'll be adding it down here anyway. We've just got to sign it up. Our list item needs to be assigned to the list. So in the brackets, just type in list. That makes a connection between the list item and the list. So we're just placing that in there. So let's do that properly. So list in there. So we connect out the list item to the list. And then we've got this list widget. And I'm going to call this list item widget because it's actually part of the item. And what we need to do is in our list here, let's get rid of some of this spacing. So list, we add the item as usual, add item, add the list item, we need to then set the item in here. So list dot set item widget. And what this does, it makes the connection between the list item and the list item widget. So that makes that connection there. Now running this, what you'll see is that we do have 3 items in there, but one's blank. And you notice our custom label text and custom push me has, instead of the duplicate being down here, we've now got this part here. Now the reason why that's blank is because we need to tell the list that it's taking a custom item and we need to set the size of it. And that's quite easily done. So where we got our custom widget, just after it we can actually set the size. And we're setting the list item. And you want set size hint, and then in brackets you then use the widget, so list item widget, and use the size hint off of there. And open and close those brackets and close in the overall brackets. So that should set the size. So there you go, so the size has been set, space has been taken up, and there's your item in there and the individual items underneath. So that allows us then to, say if we don't want those items, we can create a second widget underneath here and do the same. So we would actually take this part of the code and this part actually. So that part there, the list item widget, the setting of the size, the adding of the item, and the connection of the list item to the list item widget. So we just duplicate that up and place that in there and just give them some different naming. So we don't need to rename the list because we're adding it to that same list. So list item we need to rename. We've got another widget in there, so that needs to be renamed. List.add item, item 2, and this one, 2, and 2. And when we run that, we now got a second item in there. So as you can see, the custom widget that we're pulling in is quite basic, and it's basically the same as the window. I mean, for a matter of fact, if we do the self.show, which we got there, in here, and instead of using my window down here, do custom widget, then we get the same effect. So we just get that widget pop up like so. So it's basically the same code, but instead of showing it, we're attaching it to something else. And you can attach that to a number of things in there, drop down boxes, anything that can have something added to it, you can attach that to. And you can make multiples of these. So we could have that list with different items in there. You could place this in a loop and loop around, creating a new item each time. So that's a bit about the actual widgets and how they work, and actually how to create custom widgets to place on your windows or in another widget. So we haven't touched FreeCAD in that tutorial at all. We've just talked about layout and creating these custom widgets. So that's something for you to take away and look at when you're creating tools and utilities for FreeCAD, and also in basic Python. If you're using the Qt framework outside of Python, you can do this as well. So I hope you enjoyed that, and I'll see you again next time. If you like what you're seeing, please subscribe to my site, and also I have a Ko-Fi site where you can actually donate a few pence or a few pounds, dollars, or whatever your currency is, and that's at ko-fi.com/mang0, and there you'll be able to help me fund my site, and all the money that I actually get from any funds will actually get pushed back into the channel. Thanks a lot for watching and subscribing. I'll see you next time.